Welcome in Broncos country. This is the Denver Bronco Roundup. I am joined by Jody Moncrief and the Maha Dutchy, Albert Notpers. You might recognize that Keith is not with us right now. He's actually producing tonight. So he'll be kind of monitoring guys' comments and everything. But we're the three of us. So we're going to get this show rolling. How's everybody? Jody, how are you doing?
Just living the dream. Another year of watching Denver suck, and my Astros are down 2-0. But we did get a big win against Notre Dame or against USC, and Caleb Williams can paint 3 INTs on his fingers. So happy about that. Other than that, all's good.
Good to hear. Yeah, I seen that Caleb Williams thing. Yeah, I don't know what to think about that. It's a little on the weird side, but how's it going, Albert?
I'm doing very good. Work is busy, getting ready for planting season, so that's good. Get einkorn in the field, and then hopefully that will go very well. And then about the Broncos. Yeah, there's good news and bad news, but we hear mostly bad news, but there's always some good news.
Right, absolutely. And like I say, that Packers game, that might be might be a win actually. So hopefully we can pull that through because the rest of the schedule is a little tough. So Jeremy's coming in. What's up, fellas? How's it going, Jeremy? All right, guys. So let's get into a couple segments that we dropped into our little deal on Facebook that our fans probably seen. So I'll start with Albert first. Albert, do the Broncos need a rebuild or do they need a refuel per se?
So yeah, that was my question. What do the Broncos need to do? In my opinion, it has to be a combination of both. We have to keep some of the players that are veterans, and it doesn't have to be necessarily in the role that what you're doing. For example, I would keep Kareem Jackson, but let him be a safety coach, and then build from there. Keep Russell Wilson for another year, but when we get into the draft, uh, as it is now, the Bears will have number 1 and number 2 pick, so there might be a possibility for us to pick a quarterback because we stand as number 3 pick. So that is a possibility, and have that quarterback then sit behind Russell Wilson and get acclimatized for the NFL because it is a complete different ball game from being a college quarterback then go of college play then go to the NFL. And then the defense, create a defense around Patrick Surtain and keep some of the guys that we have, like Riley Moss and Skinner, and see what he can do. I think that is what needs to happen. And if nobody picks up Josie Jewell, keep him because Josie Jewell is a really good one to have there. And he's especially a team leader from what I have seen and what I've heard, and he does a really good job. And I keep some of the low cost players that we have, but start building around the new young guys. So it has to be a combination, in my opinion. Some of the veterans that we already have, maybe, for example, Meisner. I would never get rid of Quinn Miners. Uh, he's going to be a guard, a Pro Bowl guard in the next foreseeable future, and keep him. Garrett Bowles, I know he's going to be hit against the salary cap, but he is still a very, very good left tackle. So we can build around him and wait maybe one draft year to pick up another left tackle and keep Bowles for another year. I think that's just how they should be doing it. What do you think, Jody?
They definitely have some big decisions to make. They're going to be $20 million over the cap next year, so whether you want to call rebuild or reload, they're going to have to offload some contracts or rework some deals. Um, Sean Payton, he's never been one to do a true rebuild. I hear it going around that he did 2 in New Orleans. I can go back and look, and I don't see where that really happened. Proof on this team that he's not going to go full rebuild. I mean, 7th in targets, Marvin Mims, 2nd in yards as for wide receiver, 12 snaps against the Chiefs. He's not playing, or 12 or 13. He's not playing him. He's right there to play him if he wants to play him. Doesn't want to play him. And you hear this, well, he might not be up to speed on the route tree. He's a rookie. He needs time. He's not going to have a choice if he goes full rebuild. He's going to have to play rookies. He's never done it. That's just not been his MO. Quarterback. He's never developed a quarterback. The quarterback that he said was supposed to be the future for the Saints, Taysom Hill, failed and pulled the plug quick, just like he's doing with Russell. I mean, we're literally 6 games in, and it's Russ isn't the guy. Russ isn't his quarterback. He's not going to be here next year. Bench him so he doesn't get hurt. We're not going to give Russ any time, but we're going to give a new quarterback time. So I'm with Albert. You're going to see a little of both because Peyton does not want a full rebuild, but the cap is what it is, and they're not going to have a choice but to either guys are going to restructure or they're going to get under or they're going to get released because $20 million is a lot over the cap.
So my question then to you is, why doesn't he play the rookies, or is he just showcasing the veterans to get maybe trade calls for them, or what do you think?
I thought maybe that was the case, but look at when Justin Simmons was out. He didn't dress JL Skinner. That was a chance to play him. Davari Mathis has struggled all year, and he has done nothing with Riley Moss at corner. We cut our starting nickelback in Stang Basby. That was a chance to get him on the field. We haven't put him on the field. Same with Marvin Mims. He's been your best wide receiver since the beginning, and you're not giving him snaps. I don't know if it's a trust thing. It's a trust thing all around, in my opinion, because even if you look at the way he calls plays, go look at how he was calling plays with Drew Brees. He's not calling all the plays. He is like treating Russ like he is a rookie quarterback. There's a trust thing, and I don't know what it is, and I don't see that just happening overnight that all of a sudden now we're going to do a full teardown and start drafting all these players and we're going to just play rookies. I don't see that.
So what do you think, Trevor?
Yeah,
refuel or rebuild?
Yeah, I think it's gonna be a little bit of both. Again, I think that that's a tough question right now because we haven't seen the Broncos be like active right now on the trade block. I think we'll get that answer here in the next couple of weeks. If they trade Sutton and Judy, I think you can make a case maybe they're just going to retool, or just one of them that they retool. I think if they trade Sutton, Simmons, Judy, Jewell, you start seeing them move on from multiple players. I think it gets clear that they're going to rebuild. I'm really worried about, again, the whole let's blame Russell Wilson. There's dead cap. It's going to be a tear on the Broncos cap going forward. So I mean, they can split it up, but it's still going to be an issue for them. That's something they're going to have to swallow. And I wonder if this team's going to be bad enough to get a top 2 pick in the draft if you're talking about taking Caleb Williams or May there. So I don't know that that's the answer for the Broncos either. There's a lot of bad teams in the NFL right now, so it's just really hard to calculate if they fully rebuild right now. But again, we got 11 weeks left, a lot of season left to evaluate where this team is at. I think you should let Russell Wilson see what you got in Russ. Make sure he's not the guy, or if he is the guy going forward. I don't think Jarrett Stidham should be a guy that this team should be starting at quarterback. Jarrett Stidham's a backup in the league. That we know that.
Yeah, one thing for sure is if they start playing Jarrett Stidham, then we know that Russell probably played his last game because they don't want to get that injury clause for $37 million on top of it. Hey, there's Michael Ronquillo. Nice to see you, Michael.
I mean, I want to see Sean Payton. Russell Wilson is a Super Bowl winning, 10-time or whatever, 9-time Pro Bowl quarterback. Take why he feels he has to have training wheels on Russ. Take the training wheels off. Open your playbook up, and if Russ struggles with it, Russ struggles with it. If he doesn't, he doesn't. But to say when you hear these guys on national media, James Jones bench him, or Colin Cowherd, it's a Russ problem. Those are guys that are not doing all the research. James Jones saying, well, look what the Broncos already cut their 2 best pass rushers. No, they didn't. They were by far not their 2 best pass rushers. It's just somebody that doesn't follow the team, just talking. Colin Cowherd, BFFs with Sean Payton, gonna pass rush. No mention of horrible timeout at the end of the first half that cost Denver 3 points. That doesn't get brought up. Doesn't get brought up that we don't run the football. Yes, we ran it more against the Chiefs, but we still have not committed to it all season. When you watch Sean Payton call plays, it's not like he's setting up plays, calling plays to set up other plays. It's like he's just going down the list. This one looks good. This one looks good, and nothing is setting anything up. And if you watch prime Drew Brees, you can watch plays that are being called that are nowhere close to being called here in the routes and different stuff. So it's something that's got to change, and change quick.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree, Jody. Sorry, Albert, I didn't mean to cut you off there. But I think that, again, Sean Payton, we need to hold him accountable. I mean, the Broncos had to give up, multiple assets for him. And I think that it's not just on Russell Wilson. And again, I think that you should, injury clause, they can happen anytime. He can get hurt at any time. I mean, he can get hurt tomorrow. I mean, you just never know. So I think that, the Broncos want to protect themselves. But again, you need to figure out if Russ is the guy going forward. These next 11 weeks, if you're not going to be in it and you're going to make some trades and stuff like that, you need to really, regardless if you're going to rebuild or we're going to retool, you need to find out if Russ is the guy. Jarrett Stidham isn't going to do this team any good, starting, in my opinion.
See, I still cannot seem to understand. In 1 year, Penner signs Russ to a huge deal, and then the next year he hires a coach that what you hear is Russ wasn't his guy. That doesn't make any sense. He's willing to eat that kind of money. He comes from the business world, and you don't just lose that kind of money just to do it. You try to invest in your assets and try to make them work. You don't spend that kind of money to just say, oh, it didn't work. 6 games in. I mean, that's not even half a season. That's such a small sample size I just don't see that as a winning formula.
No. Jeremy Dressler comes in with the question: doesn't our first round pick go to Seattle? No. The Broncos will have their first round pick this year. That ended last year.
We're all done giving away picks.
Yeah. Other than the second round.
The second round pick.
Yeah, exactly. Albert, what's your thoughts on Sean Payton? Just overall wise, do you think that he was he your number one guy at the time? That when the Broncos were going as far as head coach wise, I mean, on your list, was he number one on your list?
Yeah, I Sean Payton. Yeah, was totally okay with Sean Payton, and Sean Payton doesn't dare to admit it, but right now he has the quarterback that he always was looking for. He needed 2 quarterbacks with the Saints to get the player that Russell is. You had Drew Brees and then Taysom Hill. Taysom Hill for the runs and that kind of stuff, and then Drew Brees for the big throws. And he has now that in my opinion, in Russell. And I think it is a lot of what you hear right now. I think it is just camouflage. you don't get to hear really what Sean Payton is trying to say. I think that's more the case than that he's truly, Russ is not a quarterback.
This came from Roy Osborne. Hey all, this is a wild team problem. I prefer for us to be relevant again. The Broncos need to get out of insanity. Of course, Roy. Appreciate you jumping in as well. Go ahead. Sorry.
I mean, you got to fairly evaluate Russ, and to fairly evaluate Russ, you've got to give him the full playbook. You've got to let him do things that Drew Brees was doing. You also, in my opinion, what takes you from a good head coach to a great head coach is you adapt to your players and you do things that your players do well. We have seen almost zero getting Russ out of the pocket, getting him on the move. And you go watch old vintage Russ. He's throwing the ball deep. He's making deep throws. That's what Russ does best. Other than maybe 2 or 3 balls, I have not seen Russ throw the ball deep. We don't call deep routes. In Kansas City, he had it so dumbed down there. I mean, literally, that first interception, he had no wide receivers on the right side of the field. 2 wide receivers on the left side. Something you've got to. If you've made the decision you want to move on from Russ, then what do you care if he goes out and fails? Open the playbook up, and if he succeeds, then keep Russ. If he doesn't, then move on. But you can't fairly evaluate somebody when you're not giving them all the tools.
And Michelle Knoppers, of course. Evening, gents. Appreciate you, Michelle.
She's such a sweetie pie.
So before I'll get onto our next subject here. I posted this question in our private chat, but I want to get you guys' thoughts on it first. I'll start off with Jody, and then we'll roll around from Albert to me. So what is needed for the Bronco, or what can we expect for player trades? Obviously, guys, I think we've got about the 31st Halloween. So the trade deadline, when can we expect trades? Is it going to be now? Is it going to be? I mean, this is the time frame for us to be in that conversation. So we can expect it at any time, honestly.
If I would expect them anytime, if you're going to see them, we have seen nothing. I think Judy hurt our stock a lot Thursday. Between the Twitter wars and the garbage with Steve Smith dancing behind him and that kind of stuff. I mean, yeah, he's got all the talent in the world, but he is showing nothing. Plenty of players have all the talent in the world, but if you don't show it, what does it really matter? And then I don't know how serious Denver is on moving some of these guys. What do they value more, Justin Simmons or a 3rd or 4th round pick that you may get for him? Obviously, no one has came to the table and wowed him yet. So if I was going to bet money today, you may see Judy moved and maybe one other player, but I don't see a bunch of guys getting moved because it's just not in Sean Payton's nature.
G says Michael Renkio comes in here and says George Payton is responsible for Russell Wilson's contract before playing a down with the Broncos. Well, Michael, I think that was. I heard it was ownership that was involved in that as well, and I heard that and obviously they're going to have to be the ones to sign up on that deal, so they had something to deal with it as well. I wouldn't just blame that on George Payton, but that's from what I heard.
But I think that's such a lame talking point because he didn't get paid for what they expected him to do. They paid him for past performance, and they tried to get ahead of the game because they knew Justin Herbert, Joe Burrows, Lamar Jackson were all getting ready to get paid, and the longer they wait, the more they're going to have to pay Wilson. So they tried to get ahead of it. It's easy to say now that it looks bad, but at the time, it was the right move.
Absolutely. Michelle Knopper's coming in here, says, I sincerely don't get this. You look at Mahomes and Russ stats, and they are neck and neck. I can't believe the Russ is the issue. I agree with Jody in that we are playing to his strengths. Absolutely. Absolutely, Michelle. Sean Payton also I don't think he's done anything to help out Russ. I think that he's gonna if anything, I think he's hurting Russ, especially his past couple of games. Just Sean Payton's head has not been in it. You can tell when it comes to right before halftime, he don't even know what down it is. So it's just it's ridiculous. And I think that, again, how can we trust Sean Payton to develop a young quarterback going forward if that's what Denver goes into? Albert, I want to get your thoughts on also this question. When do you expect the Broncos to make trades, and who likely to be traded? I guess that's what maybe we should also throw that in there.
If people, I think it is more of a when people are getting traded. I think it is either Judy or Sutton. Judy is still in. Is it his fifth year option or fourth year?
Next year, I think it is. I think he's
they picked it up for next year.
Yeah.
So it's still a rookie contract. So he is pretty inexpensive still. So
it's like 15 million 13 or 15 million next year.
Yeah, but in other words, it's for an average wide receiver. It could be a good contract for a new team. Sutton, Sutton has a lot of baggage with him because of the contracts that he have, and he is not that kind of a player that you want right now. So I think it is hard to get rid of Sutton. Simmons, Justin Simmons is still probably the top 3 safety in the league. And even with a contract, there might be a team who is needy and might pick that contract up and pick him up. Jewel could be one that could be picked up. And don't be surprised if they get offers for Bowles. Even although we don't think that Bowles is that great, but he's probably still in the top 10 left tackle in the league. And if somebody is really needy, they might pick him up. And if the team is really going to a rebuild, they might let him go. And if it happens, it's probably going to happen for the 31st.
Do you think that? So I guess some of the value, I guess, would ask you guys this on Bowles, because we've touched on Bowles a little bit, but I want to kind of dive a little bit deeper in on this on Bowles before we get to these other questions. So what would be your asking price for Garrett Bowles? Are you giving Garrett Bowles up for a 4th round draft pick, knowing that you have the rest of this year with Russell Wilson, and then if you bring in a rookie quarterback, you're going to have to pay a left tackle, or you're going to have to get a left tackle in some sort of way, and it's going to be hard with the Broncos cap situation if they do indeed cut Russ, or kind of regardless right now. So do you have that in mind with Garrett Bowles? He's under contract for 1 more year. What's the price that you would have to get to trade Garrett Bowles, I guess, for the Broncos?
You might get an early 4th round or maybe a late 3rd round pick. That's where I would go. You're gonna leave Russell Wilson vulnerable. And guess what? You might be able to pick one up in the draft that is ready to go in the 3rd or the 4th round, and start from scratch. Because if we're doing a rebuild, we might as well start with the O-line, pick up the O-line as well, and redo everything, and then have a quarterback that can get used to the guys in the background, and a Russell Wilson. If he wants to play, he better do his best and get the most out of it.
Jody, do you have any thoughts on what your asking price would be to move on from Garrett Bowles right now?
I would say in a late 3rd round or very early 4th round.
Okay. Jody, do you have
for me, probably a 3, but I think you'll see which way this team is really going to go if you are trading Bowles. I think that you've made your mind up that you probably are not going round one with a quarterback. I mean, that's two ginormous needs, quarterback and the left tackle. Does Denver want to go with a bridge quarterback for a year? I don't know what that really gains you when they say this is one of the deepest quarterback classes of all time. Next year, it's not all that great. I mean, you got Sanders and a couple other guys, but so I think Bowles is probably the key guy. That will determine which way you're leaning. Are you keeping Russ? Are you getting rid of Russ? Will all depend on Bowles because you can't go into next year's draft needing a starting left tackle and a starting quarterback and think you're going to get two top guys like that. That's unrealistic, especially when your defense has holes all over that you need to address, and you should probably use about 5 of the 6 draft picks on defense. So now you're going to waste, not a waste, but now you're going to use 2 picks, a left tackle and a quarterback. It just doesn't make sense. I think that's the key guy to watch. If you keep in Bowles, I can see him definitely moving on from Russ and looking at quarterback. If you're getting rid of Bowles, then you're probably not getting rid of Russ.
No, and that's the thing also, Jody, is if you move on from Garrett Bowles, left tackles, it's a hard thing to find in football. And you're absolutely right. You're gonna have to find that in the draft, more than likely. And it's just really hard to find that left tackle that can stick and can go up against these edge players. But I would say, with Garrett Bowles, I think if you get the right price for him, but I wouldn't be exactly motivated just because you're still going to have to think about how to protect either Russell Wilson or a quarterback going forward. You still have to find a way to protect those guys. If you move on from Garrett Bowles, you run the risk of, I think, creating another hole on this offensive line. And you already have that on the other side with Michael Glinchey right now. I don't know that Denver can afford to create another one on the left side if you move on from Garrett Bowles.
I'm not pulling a David Carr and wasting your first overall draft pick, and the guy was getting murdered back there, getting sacked all the time. Whatever, he led the league like 3 years getting sacked. So that's setting up your future. If you're going to draft a quarterback that high, that's setting up your franchise quarterback to just, fail. That doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, exactly. Jody, you're exactly right. Keith came in here, has a question for us. Can you get rid of some players and still keep the locker room? Albert, I'll hop that over to you. What's your thoughts?
Yes, you can keep the locker room as long as you keep the players informed with the real and true intentions what you have. If you keep it on the low and you don't inform the players what is going on and what the plans are, then you will lose the locker room. If you lose players like Simmons or Sutton or Jewell, then yes, you will lose it. But as long as you're upfront with the team, what is going on and why you're doing stuff, I think you can keep the locker room.
What's your thoughts, Jody? Do you think that they can get rid of some players and still keep the locker room? And like leadership-wise, I'm going to guess that's what Keith was.
I think it depends on what players. I mean, if you go and dump a Justin Simmons or a Pat Surtain, I don't know how you're going to keep the locker room. Train your best players for, mid round picks. What I don't understand is when people say that this locker room is full of players that have never won. Yes, I agree they've never won here in the NFL, but you've got Browning, Cooper, who won a lot of games at Ohio State. You have Pat Surtain, Jerry Jeudy, who won a lot of games at Alabama. Russell Wilson won a ton of games in Seattle. Mike McGlinchey won a ton of games in San Francisco. Samaje Perine won a ton of games in Cincinnati. You've got players on all of the New Orleans Saints guys that came over, won a ton of games in New Orleans. DJ Jones, ton of games in San Francisco. You have tons of guys that have won in other places. So, yeah, there are a handful of guys that have been around here from the beginning or for a long time for this losing streak. But you also have a lot of guys that have won a lot of games. So you would think, and especially like Mike McGlinchey. I mean, he came over and before even taking a snap here, was named a captain over guys that had been on this line multiple years. So you had guys that know how to win and have won big time games.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I guess my whole thing is tanking in the NFL. I just think that sends a bad message to the locker room. I don't think that whether Sean Payton wants to bench Russ for bad performance, that's one thing. But benching Russ just to tank is I think is ridiculous. I think, and that's just sending a bad message for future seasons. As okay, well, losing's okay. Well, losing has been something the Broncos have been dealing with since Super Bowl 50. I mean, this team hasn't done much since then. So it's just I think you want to try to send the message of, well, we're trying to win. Let the draft be where the draft may lead to, but we're trying to win. We're trying to change the culture. I just don't know you can change the culture if you are going into it and saying, "Oh, we're going to tank," or if they start Jared Stidham. I guess I would say. I mean, I understand trading players for value and getting that back, and that's what they should be doing, especially with the draft capital they have or the lack thereof. But I think that tanking is the wrong thing to use. I think with this locker room right now, with how they've lost over the past couple of years.
What frustrates me is when you say, when people say bench Russ for bad performance. What about benching or doing something to your head coach that has had a bad performance? I use the Eagles as an example. I mean, they were on the brink of firing their head coach. He was calling plays horrible, but when they took the play calling away, they started winning. He was able to focus on the full team. If you look around the league, there are very few coaches that actually are calling plays and coaching. And the ones that are doing it, there are a lot of them that are not doing well at it. Sean Payton, Kevin O'Connell, just to name a few. Those, I mean, it's rare you get a Kyle Shanahan, Sean McVay, and Andy Reid. Those are guys calling plays and doing well. I think that's something that really may need to be considered, is he needs to give up the play calling and focus on both sides of this ball and not one side, because your defense is struggling, your offense is struggling, and you're calling plays and you're focusing on that side. And just look at your defense. You've got to help both sides of this team. So it is something I would consider in the future. Do I see it happening? Probably not. Sean Payton is not the type of person to admit failure or admit wrongdoing, but it is something I think they should consider.
What's your thoughts, Albert? I think you were going to say something.
Yeah, I was going to say something. Indeed, about a team has to be complete. We saw a comment from Michelle about comparing Mahomes and Russ next to each other. But here's the thing: the defense on the Chiefs, they're the second highest in points per game scored on the defensive side. What would happen if you take those points away? The Chiefs might be 3-3. With the Broncos, we had one time that Broncos scored, and that was the only win that we had. So if that was not scored, then we would have lost against was it the Jets? Yeah, I believe so. Then we would have been 6-0 over 0-6 at this moment, because the defense made one scoring touchdown, and that's the thing. Without that, we would be probably picking number one right now in the next draft. So it has to be a complete team, and right now the Chiefs are a better completer team than the Broncos or anybody else in the AFC West. So that's why they most likely will win the AFC West. And if that was not the case, if the defense of the Chiefs was not great, then they might have been 3-3 at this moment. Oh, that's Kenny is here too. You want to put up his comment?
Yeah, I'm waiting for Keith to pull it up.
I think if the Chiefs are a perfect example, when you lose talent on the field like Tyreek Hill, you're starting rookie wide receivers, unknown wide receivers. You have the GOAT at quarterback, and he's struggling. Or maybe not struggling, but he is not putting up numbers that we are used to. Numbers that are in line with Russ, but they're winning because of coaching. And when you look at the Broncos, and this is what I've asked all year, can you name one moment this year where you're like, that was all Sean Payton, and because of Sean Payton, we got that touchdown, or we did this, or we did that hasn't happened. We have done nothing at all this year where you can go and say coaching is what did that for us.
Right, absolutely. Yeah, it'll be on Sean Payton of where this team can go from here on out. I mean, he's the head coach in the day. You got to hold him accountable, regardless of year 1, year 2, year 3. He's going to be held accountable. We got a Facebook user here, I believe it is. And we have a question here
from Roy.
It's from Roy. Okay, he said, I believe Sean Payton needs to get his hands out of the GM position as well as head coach. So I'll turn it over to Albert here. Albert, what do you think? Does Sean Payton need to give his reins up as GM and let the Broncos need to hire somebody else, or do you think Sean Payton should have control over this roster and the moves that Broncos make?
What I think that needs to happen is Sean Payton needs to step up as a head coach, step up and not being as lax as what he is right now. We know that Vance Joseph is doing a horrible job, and if Vance Joseph cannot do it, then yeah, Sean, you hired him. You need to step up and you need to fire him as well. And that is what Sean Payton needs to be held accountable. And that is he needs to keep himself accountable. And that is what is not happening.
Jody, what do you think Sean Payton needs to give up his reins GM and let somebody else take over? Or do you think that he should get another year of for personnel wise? You think he should get some more say so in personnel?
I think Sean Payton, based off of past moves, and I will exclude the Russ deal because at the time, then I will argue that to whoever that it was the right move. But there were moves all over that he has made that have been bad. Randy Gregory, paying him that kind of money when he has never played a full season. 6 sacks was his most in a season ever. So that was a horrible trade. Or a horrible signing. You can go down the list. You can say Mike McGlinchey, horrible signing so far. Falls right in line with the list of horrible right tackles we've had. Trading Albert O, he signed off on that. Trading for Adam Troutman, those are moves that he's made. Bringing all the Saints players, giving up draft picks to get Will Lutz, bringing little Jordan Humphreys, Marcus Callaway, who didn't make the roster, Tony Jones, who didn't make the roster. These are all moves that George Payton has checked off on. Whether he's been given the reins to Sean Payton, whatever. Bad moves. My initial thoughts were if Sean Payton comes in and Denver comes out and they're successful, then I'm up for maybe letting Sean Payton have more hands-on on this roster. But I cannot point to a move that's been a top move that you can look at. Ben Powers was probably Denver's best move so far, and he's been average, maybe just a little above average at best. So if I had my way, I don't need a GM brought in Sean Payton. I need someone that comes in here that holds Sean Payton accountable.
Yeah, I absolutely agree that too. Quick stat I think before we started the show here, Broncos spent $235 million in free agency this last year. The year before that, they spent $132 million. Sean Payton, it's clear that he has questionable decisions with this roster right now. Again, all these moves that he's been making, it's not working out at this point. And that's honestly most if not all. Ben Powers probably put the best, I would say. Zach Allen's starting to play a little bit better, but again, against the run, he's really struggling. And I mean, and guess who's the team? Guess, guys, here's the thing. Guess who's the team right behind the Denver Broncos as far as spending the most money in free agency and having cap room problems? The New Orleans Saints. This is why I think that it's a bad move to let your head coach be the GM. I think it's gonna be on Greg Penner to bring in the right guy to hold Sean Payton accountable and tell Sean Payton no. I think that is really critical in this team having success going forward is having a GM in place that's going to tell Sean Payton no, and not just having a yes man with George Payton, which kind of seems like right now that's kind of where Denver's at. Guys, we're getting a lot of questions in here.
See, and I have all these people that tell me Sean Payton got burnt out in New Orleans. That's why he quit. Sean Payton, in my opinion, he left Saints for two reasons. One, he put him in cap hell. And two, Drew Brees had retired. And he wasn't going to stick. That was the perfect time. Stick around for a rebuild if he wanted it. He didn't want that. You don't get burnt out and then in 1 year, the fire's back. The fire was back because they offered him $17-18 million. And you watch some of the stuff with Sean Payton. If you could ask Sean, it'd be a question I'd love to ask Sean Payton. If you could go back again, is this what you signed up for? Is this what you envisioned? Is this what you wanted? Are you 100% in?
Right.
Because it doesn't look like it. Moves that he made doesn't look like it. Then the way he left New Orleans, you could tell. Once it started going downhill, I don't want to be a part of it. I'll go somewhere else. And he didn't want the rebuild. He didn't want none of that in New Orleans. So why now does he want it here in Denver?
Right, guys, we're gonna have to rapid fire here a little bit. Albert, I think you were gonna say.
Let's check some of the comments because we have some really good comments coming in. And Roy talked about that it is an entire team problem, and to be relevant again, the Broncos just needs to get everything back out of insanity, get everything back in order. Well, I think that is a really good statement.
We're gonna have to get in these comments, guys. We're getting rapid fire comments in here and questions. I think this is Kurt's question here. He said, "What's up, boys? What's up, Kurt? Appreciate you guys. I appreciate you coming in. Kurt's got a great show over there, KK Sports Show. Check that out, guys. Great stuff over there." He says, "Tons to discuss. If our defense played like that, the first couple of games this season is totally different." And then the next question is from Kurt as well. I can find it here. It says, "Here's my point. Everybody wants Caleb Williams, but Williams doesn't play like Peyton wants to play. So if Peyton doesn't run on offense and offense to Russ's strengths, he is going to run an offense to Caleb's strengths." Our next chat here is
also from Kenny.
It's from Kenny here. Caleb plays Russ style. Peyton should be running what fits Russ. That is on the coach 100%. Kenny
that was Kurt's comment. Sorry.
Okay, it's Kurt. I can't see. So here's another question from Kenny. Kenny says, "Question: Some Broncos fans are calling for a complete teardown. My question is, do you agree? And if so, why? Defense showed up against Chiefs. We appreciate you, Kenny, joining in. I missed your chat. I think up top. We appreciate you joining in, Kenny. Whenever you have time, it's great. So I'll leave it to you guys. We'll have to rapid fire a little bit because we're starting to run out of time a little bit. I'll start with Jody on that question. Kenny's question there.
No, I don't see it because that's not what. Look at what they did in the offseason. $235 million. I mean, if you thought this roster was bad, what was you had Cam Fleming? You could have rebuilt saved a bunch of money and played him at right tackle. You could have re-signed Dalton Reisner for cheap, played him at right guard or left guard. You could have made cheap signings that you weren't gonna go out and spend this type of money. So no, I don't see a full rebuild coming. I see more of a reload, just like in New Orleans. when the rebuild was needed and ready, he bailed, and that's not the kind of guy he is. So just like a quarterback, Taysom Hill was supposed to be the man, and when it failed, we moved on right away. He, didn't give it time to develop, just like with Russ. It's like I want now, or move on. So no, I there's nothing in his past that has shown rebuild.
Albert, what's your thoughts on that? Quickly.
We addressed it a little bit in the beginning of the show. I think we will see a combination of a rebuild and a partial teardown. You cannot start all the way from scratch. Jody addressed it a little bit. The big cap hit that we will get with some of the players, some of them you have to keep for another year, so that you at least, can be a little bit safer with the money. Otherwise, you do something like what the Falcons did and are still dealing with. So yeah, you don't want that. It's going to be a partial teardown and a partial refueling.
Yeah, I'm just saying. Go ahead, Jody.
Go ahead.
Oh yeah, so I was just going to say real quick. I was going to say, I don't think it's going to be a complete teardown. I think that'll be kind of in the middle. I would say again, we'll get the answers to that. I think at the deadline or a little before, whenever the Broncos start making trades. If they make multiple different trades, and I think it's clear that it's probably a little bit of a rebuild. I think if they make one or two, then it's like, okay, I think they're going to just try to refresh the team a little bit and just bring in more draft assets and move forward. We got another Facebook question here on Facebook here. Kurt, okay. Thanks again, Kurt, for coming in and joining us on your show. Great show over there, KK Sports Show. Says Peyton Manning should be the GM. Penn make him an offer he can't refuse. Michael Rakio comes in here on YouTube. Again, appreciate you, Michael. He said, I was listening to a Building the Broncos podcast tonight, and someone asked a question. If Sean Payton was here with the Broncos last year before Nathaniel Hackett, would the Broncos be in this mess? Well, we'll have a little time, you guys. I will jump over to Albert for this one first.
It all depends. Are you going to play to the strengths of the quarterback and make the most out of it, or are you going to try to enforce a system just like what Hackett did with Russ? If that is the same situation, you're going to force Russ into a play that he isn't, then yeah, you will be in the same mess that we were in last year with Hackett. Yeah.
Jody, what's your thoughts?
I think it's two different situations. Last year, Hackett basically said, "Do what you got to do, Russ," and it failed. And at no time did Hackett step up and be a leader and say, "Now this is what we're going to do," and do stuff like Jerry Rosberg did the last two games and take stuff away from Russ and make Russ do certain things. You're going to get back to getting out of the pocket. You're going to get back to throwing the ball deep and things that were successful. Sean Payton this year, like fitting a square peg in a round hole, he has done from day one. Everyone knew and knows Russ is not a stand in the pocket and throw dimes and that type of stuff. He's always been an off-schedule quarterback, throw the ball deep, make plays with his legs. And Sean Payton has taken all that away from him, stand in the pocket. Even when Russ rolls, gets out of the pocket a little bit on a scramble drill, it's still slow. He's not moving. He's not trying to. It's all stuff that's been coached out of him. So I don't think that it would have been any better last year with Payton. It would have been the exact same because we have done for 2 years, we have done nothing to go to Russ's strengths. And that's something I think that if Russ gets moved on from or traded or however he leaves here, you will see Russ go somewhere and there will be some coach that plays to his strengths and you will see Russ ball out somewhere.
Yeah, that's a great point, Jody. That I think that it's really hard to speculate on what where the team would have been last year with Sean Payton because again this year it's kind of you didn't see too much turnover. I think with this roster, you've seen some big name players like Zach Allen, Mike McGlinchey come in. Ben Powers, Samaje Perine, and all these other names coming in. So you still seen Denver have some movement. And with lack of draft capital, they didn't have enough, I think, to really overturn the roster. So I would say it's really hard to speculate on that. I think Sean Payton would have got another year in on this, like, to build this with this team. So I think we got a better sample size of, like, is he truly the guy going forward at head coach or GM? But like just within the first year, I mean, it doesn't look good right now with the Walton Penner group coming in and hiring Sean Payton, giving up all what they gave up for him. It doesn't look good right now, but again, he's going to get the leash, I think, going forward. I think he'll get at least 2 to 3 years. I think he'll at least get 3 to 4 years. I'll say that to build this roster where he needs to go. And hopefully they'll bring in a GM to hold him accountable because some of these moves this last offseason just were not very good.
I want to address something that was asked earlier, and I'll be quick with it. Kurt mentioned Caleb Williams. Sean Payton has always had a quarterback that's supposed to be this quick timing, throw the ball, these little short slant routes, get the ball out quick. Go watch Caleb Williams at USC. He holds the ball just as long as Russ does, and there is no quick. He has done none of that there. He doesn't get under center. He's in shotgun all the time. So you can say he's a generational quarterback, but it doesn't really matter if Sean Payton, what makes you, like Kurt said, what makes you think that he doesn't want to play to Russ's strengths? Why is he now going to play to Caleb Williams' strength? Because he's on a cheaper deal? That's why. So, yeah, I think Caleb Williams has phenomenal traits and can do great things, but he fits this offense just like Russ does. What's he going to do anything better than Russ when your coach doesn't play to your strengths?
Absolutely. Kenny came in here with another question here. He said, exactly, Jody, and complete teardown will make you lovers for many years to come. Drafting a quarterback will be a huge mistake, in my opinion. And then Michael Ronquillo jumps in here on YouTube. He said, I just wanted to win NFL games. Absolutely, Michael. We all agree with that. Hopefully better days are coming to Broncos country. I don't know about this year, but future years. He comes in with another comment, says, I'm tired of losing season for the last 7 years to the Broncos. Broncos country has been suffering too long. Absolutely. It's been too long, Michael, and we're here, but we're all here to uplift each other and try to make the best out of the situation as much as possible.
Some things that frustrate me when you say rebuild or develop a quarterback. Your offensive coordinator is Joe Lombardi. He couldn't win games with who people say is a top 5 quarterback in Justin Herbert. He got fired in LA because what he couldn't do with Justin Herbert. Sean Payton, as soon as Drew Brees left, he couldn't develop Taysom Hill, who was supposed to be their future quarterback. He had Jameis Winston, the number 1 overall pick. Although Jameis put up some big passing yards, 30 interceptions. I mean, he couldn't develop Jameis Winston. Who on this coaching staff? Your quarterback coach, a first-year quarterback coach in Davis, just barely out of the NFL last year. Who on this coaching staff makes you think, yeah, that's a quarterback developer? I mean, that's what worries me.
Albert, what do you have? Do you have any thoughts on what Michael had said?
If we are really tired of losing 7 years, and probably it's going to be another year to come, if you really want to redo it, you want to start with the head coach as well, and have just another head coach, another for just 1 year, and fire him. Because from what I hear, it doesn't look like that Sean Payton then is the head coach that we need.
Yeah, that's the big question. I think you have to give Sean Payton the leash, though, because I think Sean Payton, you're gonna create this knowledge around the NFL and that's not good for other future coaches down the line and for the Broncos organization. Is your coaches are on short leashes. At some point in time, you got to have continuity in the locker room, and I think that this is what this team needs. So I don't think, with all the assets the Broncos poured into Sean Payton, I think it's really hard for them to move on from him right away. I think it's a I think 3 to 4 year type of build for Sean Payton. That the Broncos are going to give him a chance. I think you have to with what they give up for him. But I think that it's going to be interesting with what the Broncos go with forward. I think that being said, they can still hold Sean Payton accountable and really start to build this roster in a different direction and stop. I think one big thing is the big free agency signings are not panning out. This team needs to clearly, I think, go build to the draft, and that's what you see. These teams like the Detroit Lions and even Cincinnati back in the day when after Andy Dalton. So I think that they need to. We need to see that from the Broncos standpoint, and hopefully they can turn that page. We got another comment in here from Michael. Or for Kenny, sorry guys. He says, "Great points, guys. I ask Bronco fans tear it down. Panthers, Bears, Cardinals, Jets all tore it down, and Jets are playing okay, but the other teams are laughing stock of the league." Yeah, and then Muhammad actually, said, "Greetings, everyone. Greetings, Muhammad. Thanks for joining us here on the Bronco Roundup." And he says, "What's up, Michael?" I think he's talking to Michael Ronquillo here.
But I think that's a perfect example. Caleb Williams, just to draft a quarterback doesn't make any sense to me. You need to draft a quarterback that fit, and you can use Russ as a perfect example. He is not doing anything to adjust to his quarterback, so you need to draft a quarterback that fits Sean Payton's system. Is that Caleb Williams? I don't think so. If you go watch everything, he's ran one offense in college, and that's Lincoln Riley's offense. It is nothing like a shot. How do we know that he can run an offense like this? So I mean, he is the guy that I least fits our offense, and Sean Payton is showing nothing to say we're gonna adjust to Caleb Williams and do what works for him.
Right. Albert, you were going to say something?
Yeah, I want to come back to that comment from the Kenny about the laughing stock. I think the Cardinals and the Jets and the Panthers and the Bears might all be laughing stock, but I think the Broncos are topping them out, topping them all, because at least they are trying to do a rebuild. The Broncos have been trying to plug in a player here, plug in a player here. Let's try this one. Oh, no, that's not going to work. Oh, let's try this. I think that we are a bigger laughing stock than any other team right now at the market.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great point, Albert. So final thoughts, guys. I'll just go around the board here. Quickly, I want to get to Jody's question that we posted, and we didn't get to it right now. But we're going to try. Is Sean Payton the biggest reason for the losses of this team? We'll have to go a little quickly here. And then we'll get our final thoughts.
I think he has just as much blood on his hand as the next guy. I never seem to get an answer for this, but what is one thing that Sean Payton that you can say, damn, that was a great move, or damn, that was a great call, or anything that you can say, God, he set 4 or 5 plays up that just run, and that set up that. What is something that you were just like, Sean Payton has just wowed you? You've seen nothing. And that's been my biggest frustration. He's supposed to be this offensive guru, and we have seen none of it. And that's what's really frustrating is we got fed these lines. Look what he did in New Orleans. But that goes back. What came first? Who carried who? Drew Brees, Sean Payton. Right now, you got to say Drew Brees was carrying Sean Payton. Sean Payton can't win with a quarterback like Russ, who's won a Super Bowl, been to multiple Pro Bowls, probably been a top 5 to 10 quarterback his whole career in the NFL, and he can't win with him. What does that say about Sean Payton?
Right. So I'll turn over to you, Albert. Is Sean Payton the biggest reason for losses this season, where the Broncos are at?
I don't think so. I think it is a combination of Sean Payton and the owners. They want to do something different, and I think they have come to an agreement. Let's see that we can get the highest draft pick that we can get, and start from there next year. Do we want to say we're going to tank the season? Most likely. Right now, we have as it stands, we have the third pick, and I think that's what it is all about right now.
Yeah, absolutely, and I 100% agree with you, Albert and Jody. I think that this is also for me. I think it's a coaching thing, but I also think it's a player personnel thing. Broncos haven't had a first round pick since 2021. That's a little worrisome as far as getting a playmaker of some sort. Of that's defense of the ball, offense of the ball. I also think Sean Payton. This is about the worst case scenario it could possibly be. You could argue the Broncos might be 0-6 right now if they don't. If Chicago doesn't, kind of bite themselves, in the butt a little bit with how they called that game and not taking that field goal at the end of the game. But I think it's a mixture of both. So we'll see how this team handles it and how ownership handles it. Again, I think at the end of the day, ownership is going to have to be held accountable as well. They're going to have to. They're new to this business, new to the NFL. They're going to have to hold Sean Payton accountable and bring in the right people, and not just let Sean Payton just take over and just expect this team to go somewhere. So we'll see how that goes. It goes going forward. Michael Ronquillo comes in here with a comment that says Caleb Williams will need to process the NFL game because the NFL is very different than college. Yeah, absolutely, Michael. 100% agree with that one. And then Kenny comes in here and says Brock Bowers would be the perfect playmaker you need, in my opinion.
Now I need to see I agree with that, but I need to see what Brock Bowers is like after this injury. I don't know if that stunts him or what now. Supposedly supposed to be out several weeks. Had surgery on that ankle, so we'll see how he comes back after that.
Right. All right, guys. I think we're about ready here to wrap it up. So I will just get you guys' final thoughts. I guess I can quickly to the Packers game because we haven't really got to it. What's your guys' what can we expect from this game? The Broncos going in. I haven't really looked at the spread yet. But this should be a winnable game. Packers have kind of been down the past couple of weeks. I'll kind of get you guys' final thoughts on that, and then we'll be wrapping it up and get to our sponsorship here. I'll start with Albert.
So yeah, it is indeed a winnable game, but are we going to win? I don't think so. Like I said, in my previous comment, if they are really going to tank, then you have to lose every game that is coming from now on. And I think we are not going to be a 3-14 team. I think we're going to be a 1-16 team. I think that's what it comes to it. I hope not, but that's more realistic. I think, and it's more being on the safe side.
Joey, what's your thoughts? Is this a winnable game against the Green Bay Packers?
I think it's winnable. Do we win? I don't know. I need to. What I'd like to see is Rush just come out and say F it and put this team on his back and start running stuff that when he's getting pressure, get out of the pocket and scramble and tell his receivers go deep and make some plays. That's what seemed to work best in Seattle. I want to see how Russ handles 10 days away from, or 10 days with hearing the reports are that Denver's already made their mind up that they're moving on from him. How does he come out and play? Does he get fired up, and does the next 10 games just Russ ball out and say, now move on from me now that we're winning games and this is happening, or does Russ crumble? That's what I really want to see. As for a score prediction, I don't even know because I don't know what kind of Russ you're going to get. I don't know how these last 10 days with all the media stuff has gotten to him. Is he one that can tune that out and say, okay, I'm gonna prove you all wrong, or is throwing these little checkdowns every game to throw 70% for 200 yards, is that more important to him? Well, that's what I want to see.
Yeah, and I think quickly going on this before we get to our comments and we wrap up. I think the Broncos overall we need to see consistency, and I think offensively it's the past couple weeks have really been sort of a letdown, I think, offensively, and that's why I'm really kind of critical on Sean Payton. I think this is an offense that really they've got to start figuring it out and start playing to this team's strengths. I mean, again, you spend all this money on offensive line, use it. I mean, stop always just pinning on Russ. Yeah, I guess Russ is not playing good right now, but there's a reason for that. And I don't think that we've seen Sean Payton use Russ to his the best ability. Use some of these playmakers, Jaleel McLaughlin, Marvin Mims. Why are these guys not playing? They need to be in the game. We need to see these playmakers on the field. Okay, you want to play Jerry Jeudy, you want to play Cortland Sutton. Well, use them. You're not. I mean, these guys are not even seeing 100 yards a game right now. So I do want to jump into. That being said, I do want to jump into some of the comments here because we're getting a ton of them. Again, thanks guys for joining in. You guys make this possible. We really appreciate you. Mohammed Badri comes in here, says, I don't want the Broncos to win any more games. Yeah, that's the whole thing of tanking. I mean, it's tough, but again, as a fan, you want this team to win. You don't want to just say tank because that's 11 games of tanking right there, and it's just I don't think you want that. Kenny comes in here as well and says, he says, ouch. I think the Broncos want to win, win 2 defensive plays well again, and Broncos win 17-13. Yeah, it's possible that I could see that being the score there. Michael Ronquillo comes in and says, my final thoughts are a great show tonight. Trevor, Jody, Albert, go Broncos. Absolutely, Michael. We appreciate you coming in here and doing what you do. You're a great, valuable member of this community we got here. So we really appreciate you. He comes in here again and says, Packers O-line is not good either. Says they have a young O-line team. Yeah. I think Bakhtari, him being out, has really hurt that offensive line. And it's a shame. But I think that, I mean, for Bakhtari, because he's a Colorado kid. Yeah, I mean, hopefully guys like Nick Benito can come in and really shed light on that offensive line. Kenny comes in here again and says, tank for Caleb Williams. Did you watch how Notre Dame expressed him? Yeah. Yeah, it was pretty bad for Caleb Williams here. All right, guys, final thoughts as we wrap up here. Anything you guys got?
For me, I just want to see how Russ plays this weekend. I want to see. I hope that we see a Russ that comes out fired up and motivated and puts his team on his back. These last 10 days, if he at all listened to any of the hype or any of the media or anything, it's been down on Russ. And come out and put that to bed. Make Denver or force Denver to move on from you when you're putting up big games and winning. He can still do it. He's shown glimpses. That he just needs to do it now. That's what I want to see.
Albert, what's your final thoughts?
My final thoughts are I have several things. Even although there's a winnable game, I don't think the Broncos will find a way to lose it. And I also want to thank everyone for watching. Jeremy, Michael, Roy, Michelle, Keith, of course, Kenny, Kurt, Mohammed Badri. And this was Mohammed's first time on the show. And Sis and Graham were watching as well. Thank you so much for watching another fantastic episode of the Denver Broncos Roundup. We are brought to you by Rocky Mountain Sports Network. Whether you are cheering on your Broncos, Nuggets, Avalanche, or Rockies, the Rocky Mountain Sports Network has you covered. Follow us on Facebook, YouTube, X, used to be Twitter, and check out the Rocky Mountain Sports Network website. Also, if you're looking for something fantastic for your barbecue, look no further than our sponsor, Willow Seasonings and Blends. Willow Seasonings is an award-winning sauce and rub company from right here in Colorado. Available in down the Front Range and worldwide by heading to willowseasonings.com. Spice up your life and get your Willow's Seasonings today. And I am an avid customer from their spices because they really, really are enjoyable. And that's it for me.
Okay, so and Kenny comes in here, says, great show, boys. Good luck Sunday. Thank you, Kenny. We appreciate you. Again, check on the K Sports Show. It's a great show over there. And we always love Kenny's support over here. And thanks to all for joining us here in Denver Bronco Roundup, another episode. We probably will have something out here this week, a little later. So just stay tuned with that. We'll keep you guys updated. And as always, go Broncos.